I got myself a Christmas tree a year ago. I didn't know much about sustainability of Christmas tree back then, but I figured if it's something that I'm gonna use for a long time, and I intend to, if it's something that I can use several times, it's definitely much better for the environment than a Christmas tree that somebody gonna chop, especially for me, every year, and then it's just gonna be discarded. That's how I was thinking all this time, but this year I decided, how about I research about this? What is more sustainable, having a fake tree that you reuse every year or having a fresh tree? I was actually surprised by what I found out, and in today's video I will be sharing with you my comparison of real Christmas tree versus fake Christmas tree in terms of sustainability. Let's hop right on. When we talk about sustainability, we have to consider several areas. First of all, the production, all the footprint or all the negative or positive impact that was done during the production or, making of this item. The second one are the materials, are the materials themselves sustainable or not? What's the benefits of using this material, or what's the contrast of using it? The third thing that we have to consider, how many times we're going to use the item. Is it going to live long, or has a short lifespan? Is it going to be used several times or not? And the fourth thing that we should consider today is the disposal. Obviously, we need to talk whether this item going to be recycled or not, whether it's going to go to the landfill and create more negative carbon footprint, or whether it can be actually environmentally friendly disposed. Obviously, these are the main areas we need to consider, but there are other ones as well, which I also gonna mention in this video. The interesting thing that unless we consider all of these areas all together, we can't really say which one is more sustainable. And like with many things in the sustainability conversation, what I realized when I was preparing for this video, I realized that although you can find the answer which one is bad or which one is good, you still have to understand that everything is so relative. It's more important to understand the whole issue and understand the consequence, and also see the ways how you can be sustainable. And even if you choose the second favorite option in the terms of sustainability, you can still do something good about it. Let's talk about the production of Christmas trees. If we talk about the fake Christmas trees, they are made of several materials. They usually include some kind of metal as well as some kind of plastic. Let's call it like this. Technically, it's actually PVC. Most of the Christmas trees, especially the ones that are sold here in North America, are actually produced in China. And as you can guess, if something is produced in China, we can't really guarantee if it was done in the most sustainable, in the most environmental friendly way. Probably not.
A tree with branches this big isn't very practical, so they're cut to size by hand. They're cut this way because a mechanical cutting machine would flatten the needles back down.
So what about the real Christmas tree? Those Christmas trees, they are usually farmed. Some people think that they are cut from the actual forest. That's not how it happens, because the amount of Christmas trees that are cut every year is like tremendous. Farming of Christmas trees is apparently a big business, especially, I guess, here in North America. And according to the National Christmas Tree Association, there are around 350 million Christmas trees currently growing on Christmas trees farms. So 350 million are growing right now. And in terms of how many are sold each year, these numbers are between 25 to 30 million trees. So how are the Christmas trees farms? Basically, there is a certain land that is used for Christmas tree farmings. People who take care of this farm, they grow new Christmas trees every year. So every year they would put some seedlings to grow more trees. And one tree, before it gets harvested, it will take between like 7 to 15 years. Obviously, depends how big is the tree that's going to be sold. But for the most of the households, the trees will be around 10 years. So every year when they will be cutting trees on this farm, they will be also obviously putting seedlings for new farms. Also, as you can see from the numbers, it's only 10% of Christmas trees that are grown in general are sold every year. So it's not that the whole farm is chopped completely, it's only 10% is harvested every year. And obviously growing trees is not as bad as, producing trees on the factory and using plastic and petroleum. And also there is actually a positive benefit of growing trees. I learned in some videos that growing trees on certain lands can be actually very beneficial for this particular land. It might be also beneficial for animals that living there, and obviously growing trees is very beneficial for the air. It helps with the climate change and other things. So it seems like production of the real Christmas trees is much better than the production of the fake trees, Christmas trees. And although you're only going to use it once, it's actually not harming the environment while it's being produced. But obviously it's not all that good and shiny. There are also negative effects of growing Christmas trees. So unless the farm is run in the sustainable way, and most farms are probably not, there is actually other problems that can occur during growth of those Christmas trees. The farmers can use pesticides, which are not good. Also, when the Christmas trees are very young, they require a lot of water. So basically, we need to use a lot of water for this farm, which can be also a negative benefit. The older trees don't require that much more water, but because the trees are chopped after 10 years, so a lot of water is used during this production. Also, I was watching one of the farms, how they do their harvest. They use actually heavy machinery, obviously, to cut the trees. They even use a helicopter to cut the trees. So we also kind of have to consider all the footprint that is done during, like using the machinery and stuff like that. But obviously it's really hard to calculate that, and probably it's still not as bad as, producing something on the factory when we talk about the fake trees. We're going to go into the other parts as well, but already here, I actually want you to see how, even if somebody says like, oh, growing a tree, it's absolutely, like not harming the environment and obviously producing something on the factory is, you still have to understand that not all types of farming are actually positive for the environment. For example, pesticides are a big issue. Not using the right sustainable farming is also a big issue. So it's still kind of tricky, which one is more sustainable. I almost actually forgot another thing. When we talk about the production, we also have to consider the transportation of this item to your store, from where you buy it. So when we talk about Christmas trees that are fake, most of them are produced in China, as I said already. So, the transportation is quite long. They have to be shipped to your place. Let's say you live in America. That's going to be a long way from China. So the negative footprint from the transportation is also quite bad. When we talk about real Christmas tree, most probably this Christmas tree is, grown locally. If you live in America, in your state, then it's much better than bringing something from China. So in this regard, when you're like choosing the real Christmas tree, it's important to, double check that you're buying a locally grown Christmas tree. Don't order Christmas tree online. I don't know, maybe some people do, it's not as good. And in case you decide to get a fake Christmas tree, look for some options. Maybe there are some local producers of some Christmas tree in your country. I don't know if those really exist because mostly they are produced in China, but who knows? Maybe new small brands are popping up and you can actually doing much better by supporting a small brand. But make sure they're not producing in China. Just being small is not enough. But saying that, I'm thinking like, there's rarely anything produced not in China, unfortunately. But obviously, besides talking about the production, we also have to talk about materials as well. Again, when we talk about the fake trees, they are not as good in terms of materials. To produce a Christmas tree, you have to use the PVC, and PVC is made from petroleum-based products. So basically, we are relying on oil and fossil fuels to create the Christmas tree. And obviously, when we talk about the real Christmas tree, we don't need any special materials, So obviously, in terms of materials, something that's made from wood is much better and much sustainable than something that's made from PVC. Other negative impact of PVC is the fact that it's actually can be quite toxic, and there are even some studies that say it's connected to some cancers and other things. So basically, having a PVC Christmas tree in your house is not necessarily super healthy. I don't know how harmful it is, but it's not necessarily super healthy. I guess if you have a Christmas tree in a closet and you sleep in this closet or in a small room, it might be not so good. I don't know. I didn't go that deep. At the same time, Another problem about the PVC material and the fact that the Christmas tree is made of several materials. Sometimes they put this icing, sometimes they make the Christmas tree already having some light. So this abundance of different mixed materials make the Christmas tree, the fake Christmas tree, not really good in terms of disposal. But about this part we're going to talk a little bit later. So when we look purely on the side of materials and production, the fake trees are not good, obviously, at all. Let's look at other things. So let's look at the other area, about the how long this item going to be used, if it's going to be single use or multi-use. That's where I made my biggest mistake, considering fake trees more sustainable, because I was thinking like I can buy this Christmas tree and I can use it almost forever, because I don't think it gets that much wear and tear, I guess. We'll see. And opposite to that, the real Christmas tree is only going to be used once, and usually people only get it for a week or two. I was extremely shocked when I moved to America and I realized that on the 27th or 26th even of December, people already start throwing their Christmas trees. Like, those live real Christmas trees, they just, carry it to the garbage and leave it there. I was like, wait a minute, you paid so much for that Christmas tree. Why don't you keep it longer? You didn't even wait until the New Year. I was really shocked. I didn't know that people don't even keep Christmas tree until New Year. It's still wintertime, festivities, and so on. I don't know. So if you look at the consumption of a Christmas tree, when this tree is only used for a week or two, it doesn't really make sense, like all this production, all this growing, all this selling, transporting, and other things were done. It was only done just for you to use it for a short period of time. When I was actually buying my Christmas tree last year, I was thinking like, yeah, it's not gonna look as real Christmas tree, but at the same time, it was just bugging me to think that I'm gonna use this tree for once and throw away. The real tree will be cut just for me to use it for a short period of time. So here it's a tricky issue, like in terms of production and materials, the real Christmas tree wins. In terms of, like usage, it loses. So the research that I found says that if you use your fake Christmas tree for at least 10 years, you can actually offset the footprint from, production and from the fact that the material is not the most sustainable. So basically, when we talk about the fact that, oh yeah, I'm going to use this fake Christmas tree several times, you have to really use it a lot of times. So basically, I got my Christmas tree last year. I have to use it at least for the next, 9 or 8 times before it will offset the footprint. It doesn't mean that I can throw it away immediately after that, but at least it's not going to be a negative footprint. If I buy this Christmas tree and the next year I realize that, oh, I don't like the shape, I don't like the size, I want a different style, then when it gets really crooked, and that's when we actually have lots of negative impact on the environment. So using Christmas tree that is fake only a few times, it's not working. Again, there is a research how many years people actually use their Christmas tree, how long they keep it. This research says that most people keep between 4 years and 10 years. So you see, we're not really beating the negative footprint by such behavior. So for me personally, I understand now that I have to stick with this little Christmas tree probably forever. Obviously here, when we talk about fake Christmas tree, it's also important to consider that how did you get it? Let's say I bought my Christmas tree from a thrift store. So we can assume that somebody already used it before, at least one time. Maybe somebody bought it for some shooting or something like that, some filming, and discarded it after. So at least they used it one time. So buying like a fake Christmas tree secondhand, or maybe borrowing a Christmas tree from your friends, parents, or relatives, because they have a bunch of Christmas trees and they don't really use them anymore. So this is a better way. So we have to try to prolong the life. Otherwise, we should actually choose the real Christmas tree. And last but not least, after we used something, how it's going to be disposed. The fake Christmas tree, as I already mentioned, it consists of several materials, so most probably you're not going to be able to recycle it. Most probably it's going to just end up in the landfill, and materials like PVC, they don't really disintegrate, so it's going to be sitting there forever. So the least amount of years you used your fake Christmas tree, the worse it is. And actually right now, after knowing what I learned making this video, I slightly regret getting a Christmas tree. I did something good when I was getting it, and I will mention that a little bit later, yeah. And obviously when your Christmas tree is old, the best way to dispose it is not throwing into the trash, because then it's going to end up on the landfill, but find another life for it. Maybe ask your friends or relatives, neighbors, anyone. Maybe somebody needs a Christmas tree. If not, then maybe, I don't know, donate it to your thrift store. Let them sell it, let somebody buy it, and let this person extend the life of Christmas tree. Maybe post it anywhere, like Craigslist or any website. Even if you post it, I don't know, for $5, $2, just make sure somebody grabs it and uses. Try not to dispose it. If it doesn't look good, let's say it's old Christmas tree, it's already falling apart, think if you can actually somehow repurpose it. Let's say you can maybe repurpose some of these branches into some kind of Christmas decor for your home. So try to extend the life of this Christmas tree, of the fake Christmas tree, to the maximum. So what about the disposal of real Christmas trees? The good thing that they're made from wood, I mean not made, they consist of wood, and they are biodegradable. Technically, if you just leave it somewhere don't leave it anywhere, but let's say it's left somewhere in many years, it's just gonna rot and decompose. Obviously, it's going to take forever like this to decompose, so the best way is not to throw into your, recycling or garbage, or так не добрать там. But even it is biodegradable, you still have to be very considerate how you, dispose it. The best way is to actually buy a Christmas tree from some places that already have some program when they take the old Christmas tree back and let's say they convert it into mulch. Or maybe see if in your city there are any programs where you can actually give up your Christmas tree, because obviously it can be, converted into the mulch. And also there are like a bunch of programs when they actually use Christmas trees, I mean just in general trees, for some good cause. For example, they put it in some lakes, because it's not lakes but in some bodies of water where it's actually very good for the fish that this tree would be slowly decomposing. It's very good for the wildlife in this particular body of water.
Well, these trees are going to be headed to about a half a dozen reservoirs across the state, every place from Beach Fork and East Lynn up to Tigard and Stonewall Jackson. And they'll be used for fish attracting structures in those reservoirs. The fish like to orient themselves to anything that supplies some cover. So these supply in the summertime shade, and also places where other fish might come and feed, and then the game fish will come and feed on those smaller fish. So all in all, it's a great place for fish and for anglers as well.
So ask yourself, what's going to happen to my real Christmas tree after I throw it away? Is it going to be sent to the landfill or not? Because if the real Christmas tree is sent to the landfill, it's not going to decompose very fast, and most probably while decomposition in this giant landfill, it's gonna emit some methane, so it's a negative footprint, and we are basically contributing to the air pollution as well as climate change. So as you can see, in most of the areas I discussed, the real Christmas tree wins. But at the same time, if the whole thing is not done responsibly, you can still be much worse than the fake Christmas tree. So obviously, as you can guess already, I have a fake Christmas tree in the background. And as I mentioned before, maybe if I knew all this that I know now, I would reconsider. But at the same time, I still have a very strong arguments towards the fake Christmas tree. And although they're not related to the points that I mentioned before, I still want to talk about them, because I feel like lots of videos about sustainability of Christmas trees, they actually repeat the same stuff, but they don't raise many other important questions. And I want to raise them. I want people to start thinking about them, and maybe some of you have actually answers for those questions. So if you want to comment something, please use the comments down below. Again, so let's talk about my points. As I said before, I like the idea that I will be reusing something several times, and even I can see, that and read that, farming Christmas trees is not the same as chopping trees from the forest. I still find it quite weird that we grow something and instead of actually keeping it as a forest, we have a need to chop it down. I still feel that I would prefer that there will be more sustainable options for fake Christmas tree, like maybe more sustainable materials, maybe some biodegradable materials, because, now we have biodegradable plastic bags. Why not to have biodegradable bristles for the fake Christmas tree? So I really want that the Christmas trees will just evolve as a industry will evolve in more sustainable options. Also, the reason why I personally chose the fake Christmas tree last year, I had an option. This tree was, it was a discounted or like open box or second hand, something like that. So somebody actually bought it and then returned. So I at least did a good thing about that. And I think I only paid $35 or $37 for it, while the real Christmas tree would probably cost me $70 or $80. And for me personally, if somebody spending $80 for a real Christmas is not a question, it's okay, it's like fits our budget, then I think it's fine. But for me personally, besides being sustainable, I'm actually try to be, like the person who is very smart with money. That's even more important for me than being sustainable. So my idea was that I can actually save so much money by having the same tree every year. And for me, like those money that I saved, basically $80 every year, I can actually reinvest this money by buying something from sustainable brands. Basically, I can buy a new item from a sustainable brand every year, or maybe like every other year. Yeah, it depends what items I'm buying. So for me, making a choice towards a fake tree was not only like purely about the environment, production, and this and that, was also about me being able to kind of like redistribute this money to other businesses. So like now I'm trying to buy more stuff from sustainable brands, and those things usually cost more. So for me to be able to do that, I had to sacrifice something. That's why I got a Christmas tree that's much cheaper and I can just reuse it. Also, as I mentioned before, my idea is that it's probably gonna last a while because it seems like it's very heavy duty. It has a good, I think, chances to live quite for some long time. And obviously when I will not need it anymore, I will find a second home for it. I will not go just discard it. I will try to find somebody who needs a Christmas tree. And another thing that I also want to mention in this video, that besides choosing between fake Christmas tree like this, like classical fake Christmas tree, and choosing between like real Christmas tree, there are actually also other options. And for many years before that, I didn't even own a Christmas tree. I guess right now I'm just getting old or something, but I really feel that I want this festive, nice mood in the house. And also this year is a little bit crazy. We all sit at home and you really need the feel of, Christmassy, cheerful mood. But in general, I never had a need for Christmas tree before. That's why I never had in my life. This Christmas tree I got when I was 38 years old. And for me, the important alternative is don't get Christmas tree at all. Lots of people think if it's a Christmas, I think especially in North America, if it's a Christmas, I have to have Christmas trees. If I don't have Christmas tree, if I don't have Christmas decor, it's kind of weird. But you have to really ask yourself, do you need it? Maybe you don't need it. Maybe it's just actually a burden for you that every year you have to figure out, you need to get a Christmas tree, you need to set it up, then you need to take it down. Maybe it's not something for you. Maybe you can have a nice large plant decorated as a Christmas tree, less hassle. And also there are actually some sustainable alternatives that are popping up right now, and the more people will support those alternatives, the better it will be. I heard about several things. The first one is a rented tree. There are services, and check it out. Maybe there is one in your area where you can actually rent a Christmas tree. They somehow bring it to you. I think it's in a certain pot or something. And then after the Christmas is done, they take it away, so they actually put it back to the nature where it's supposed to be. There are also some like cute options. For example, you can get a large rosemary plant that looks almost like a tree, and then you can decorate for New Year. It's not going to be as large as this, but if you need a smaller tree, that can work too. One alternative that doesn't work that I have to mention, don't get a Christmas tree in a pot if you live in an apartment and if you plan to keep this Christmas tree in a pot the whole year in the house. Most Christmas trees, I mean like all these conifers, most of these plants, they don't survive well indoors unless you live like somewhere where you can actually just bring it inside for the Christmas time and then take it outside. Let's say bring it to your backyard in the rest of the year, unless you can do something like this. 2 years ago, I actually experimented. I was thinking like, how about I get a mid-size Christmas tree in a pot and I just keep it. Unfortunately, it didn't survive. They really don't survive well in a dry climate, and the air in the house is very dry. So these are my ideas, and although most of the videos that talk about Christmas trees would tell you that, oh, a real Christmas tree is much better, I'm still not convinced, because unless the farm where I get my Christmas tree is a legit one, I know this farm, I did some research on it, I know they're doing sustainable farming, they're not using crazy pesticides and other stuff to make these trees grow faster and be more like durable, then it's not necessarily absolutely, like a sustainable option. But I guess this is the information for you to consider, and then all of us, we do our own choices. I hope this video somehow helped you, or at least enlightened you on the questions of sustainability of Christmas trees. I had lots of fun researching it, and see you in my next video. Bye bye.